Thank you so much, Roxana, Dr. Sharma, and all the directors for the kind invitation. I have a big challenge because in less than 10 minutes, I have to go over some of the new exciting technology that you will see in your cath lab in the next few years. Those are my disclosures. I think the first question is that why do we need new valves? I think that we started with great self-expandable and balloon expandable valves, but I have to say that so far I haven't seen yet a perfect valve. There's always be something in terms of paravalvular leak, use of pacemaker, coronary access as we move forward with younger patients, and so many other nuances that it's still worth to look for new valves. And the only people that will really benefit from that is our patients, because I think competition is great to decrease cost and to enhance our performance. So again, I have now 9 minutes to oversee with you some of this new exciting technology. I had to make some choices, and of course I'm not going to present too much data, but I decided to go over 1 or 2 slides in these technologies just to show the mechanism of action and perhaps some nice pictures and less data. I don't think I have to spend much time with SAPIEN 3 and Evolut R. Both you have access here in the United States, but just perhaps a little bit of novelty of the next generation of SAPIEN 3. And this is what you just saw in the live case with the so-called Ultra. The SAPIEN 3 Ultra has some differences between that and the SAPIEN 3 that we use in most cases in our lab. You see that the height of the skirt, can I go back one? Go back one, please. So the height of the skirt is a little bit taller, and the tissue, now they have this more textured fabric that will really prevent paravalvular leak. So those are the most important changes between SAPIEN 3 and Ultra. And again, you have access to that here in the United States. Some good news in terms of the new sheet that Edwards put together, the Axella, that will be compatible with all sizes of the Ultra and SAPIEN 3 with an insertion of a 14 French sheet. In terms of Evolut R, I think that you are all familiar with this. This is one of the most used valves in the entire world. And then again, a lot of credit to Michael Reardon that helped us to design multiple studies. And again, this is a good supraannular self-expandable nitinol valve that you're going to see performing multiple live cases. Some novelties now with the Portico by Abbott. It will remind you the design of the Evolut valve, of course. It has a little bit of open cells, if you will, here. You can see. And this is good news for coronary access in the future, another supraannular self-expandable valve that will be approved in the United States very soon. It really conforms to the very eccentric annulus with a lot of calcium with a good valve coaptation. Some data that Raj Makar just presented at TCT with Greg Fontana, 750 patients randomized to Portico versus the commercially available valves as described here. You see that the primary endpoint was met for non-inferiority, Portico versus the commercially available SAPIEN 3 and Evolut valves in terms of all-cause mortality and in terms of strokes. However, you can clearly see with an 18 French device that you're going to observe more bleeding, more vascular complications with Portico versus the valves that we have available now, and also a little bit more paravalvular leak. So that's perhaps the price you pay for self-expandable with a higher profile, but it's certainly going to be another option for the US patients. Lotus by Boston Scientific, we have the new version, the so-called the Lotus Edge. Now Boston recalled Lotus for improvements in terms of the architecture of the valve. It used to have very high rates of pacemaker. Now with the learning curve and with the newer version, the pacemaker rate is less. It's a fantastic valve for bicuspid aortic stenosis, together with very calcified annulus because of the great radial force. So this is coming soon here also to the United States. ACURATE Neo, also by BSC, is a self-expandable valve. You see the close-up look in this slide. It has an interesting deployment technique with two sheets. The first one will release the upper crown and the arches. It's gonna centralize the valve, coaxialize the valve much better, and then you go ahead with the final step, which is the release of the lower crown. Again, porcine, supraannular, great for coronary access. You see with the arches, it interferes less with the coronary access, together with open cells here in the upper crown. And this is also coming here very soon to the US. These are the steps of the deployment: alignment, upper crown, stabilization arches, and then you're going to be very stable to go to the last step, which is the release of the lower crown. As you can see, this is an example from our series in São Paulo. Again, the upper crown, the stabilization arches. It really centralizes the whole system, make it stable and more predictable for deployment. And this is the last step, which is the release. You see the sheath goes forward and it releases the lower crown. Now we don't need rapid pace anymore. We don't use rapid pace because it's very predictable and it's anchored into the ascending aorta. And this is the final result of this particular patient. We were a little bit disappointed with the results of a scope 1 that was recently presented also at TCT. It did not meet the non-inferiority margin of 7.7% versus SAPIEN 3. You see 24% event rate versus 17% with SAPIEN. Due to multiple reasons, I think that it's not so fair to compare a learning curve versus another valve that has been used in thousands of patients in multiple centers. But I think that we have to recognize some of the limitation of self-expandable valves in terms of paravalvular leak. This non-inferiority was essentially to more paravalvular leak in the group of ACURATE. But also good news for the US. The valve that is being under investigation here for the FDA is the ACURATE Neo 2, that also with this new change in terms of the skirt to avoid paravalvular leak can decrease the rates of PVL that you're going to see with the US study. JenaValve, I was particularly attracted to that valve because to me is an interesting and great solution for non-calcified as we move forward to moderate and to younger patients, non-calcified aortic stenosis, together with aortic regurgitation. We don't have a good result, percutaneous solution for aortic regurgitation. This valve it clips, it grabs the leaflet, and then when you open, the leaflet is going to be grabbed, so the risk of embolization is much lower. And again, for aortic insufficiency might be a fantastic solution. ALLEGRA was another self-expandable valve that we tested in São Paulo, was recently acquired by Biosensors. This is a German company, also self-expandable, very interesting and intuitive. You partially deploy the middle of the valve, and then you have also two sheets that will release the proximal and the distal portion. Very scarce clinical data. I think now with the hands of Biosensors, you're going to increase the number of patients and number of studies. My valve is a generic valve. It's going to remind you the design of Edwards. It's been performed in India. Dr. Sharma has been very instrumental to help to conduct studies in India. Again, perhaps some differences between this valve and SAPIEN. This is pre-mounted, and you don't have to do the maneuver, and it's easily deployed. They have a special sheath, as you see, and this is the result of the case that was performed in India recently. It's moving progressively to Europe. It has CE mark, and you're going to see more data, and perhaps it's going to be an interesting alternative for less privileged countries that will need cheaper valves. I think that the final one is perhaps better than any metallic valve is going to be no valve, and perhaps we can delay in younger patients the need of a surgery or the need of a TAVR with the leaflets device that Eberhard Grube and us in Brazil are going to perform in 2 or 3 months, the first in man. for this particular device. This is like a valvotomy. So it really is an interesting device in terms of breaking and scoring calcium and to increase valve area. You're going to see a short animation just to understand the mechanism of action of this new device. First, you release the expander, which is going to be inside the valve. Then you tackle the frame in multiple positions, really to break the calcium. And as you can see, you're going to do several orientations, and you're going to perform a very aggressive scoring. You see that now when you pull back the expander, of course, you're going to follow the gradient to see how many times you have to intervene. It's going to be great to have a backup, a TAVR as a backup in case you have aortic insufficiency, but the preliminary cases have been very positive in terms of this being a standalone device. So this is the mechanism. Again, you can really postpone or work as a bridge to a definitive treatment with this novel device. So as you can see, this is an exciting field. We are not finished yet. There will be several interesting devices that you're going to see in your shelves in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you so much for your attention.